Out front now, Basil Smikle, former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and Scott Jennings, political commentator and former senior advisor to Mitch McConnell. So, Scott, let me start with you on the Republican side here. Do you agree with Christie and DeSantis that voters will care, that voters will think Trump's move is disrespectful of them?
Well, I agree with him that it is disrespectful, but Donald Trump's been disrespecting Republicans since 2016, and it's working for him. He has busted party orthodoxy and party norms and party structures since he came onto the scene, and they love it. And so, as a strategic matter, I don't blame him. Frankly, he's got a huge lead. Everybody on that stage, or at least a few people, may want to take a shot at him. And he thinks he can get in a low-risk, high-reward environment with the Tucker Carlson interview. Candidly, from a strategic perspective, it's a no-brainer to sit this out and let everybody else tear Ron DeSantis apart.
And Basil, I know you sort of share that point of view, right, at this point.
Absolutely. Can't get into Donald Trump's head. I wouldn't even try. But if I were advising him, I would say, do not go. Your poll numbers are up. What do you have to lose? He has actually a lot to lose by being there. Someone like Ron DeSantis has everything to gain from being there.
Right.
He can find a way to, if it's at all possible, to reset his campaign. But for Donald Trump, there's no reason for him to be on that stage.
Right, especially because Chris Christie is going to be on that stage, and you can only imagine what those exchanges would be
Exactly.
like. So, Basil, while the Republican candidates are on the campaign trail, President Biden held that historic summit at Camp David today, and it was historic. Japan's prime minister, the president of South Korea, all together, and he was asked about Trump's comments that he would seek to reduce America's footprint on the Korean Peninsula, right? And that obviously U.S. troops there on the DMZ, present all over that country. Listen to what Biden said.
There's not much, if anything, I agree on with my predecessor on foreign policy. His America First policy, walking away from the rest of the world, has made us weaker, not stronger. America's strong with our allies and our alliances, and that's why we will endure.
Okay, it comes, though, as the latest polls show Biden running neck and neck with Trump in a hypothetical matchup, and Biden's 3-point lead within the margin of error, right? And the majority of Americans don't want him to run. Majority of Americans don't want Trump to run either, but actually more of them don't want Biden to run than Trump. So what gives?
Couple of things. Voters don't necessarily vote for foreign policy, but they vote for safety and security, and they vote for presidents that look presidential. And engaged in these kind of foreign policy discussions makes people look presidential. So it was a good hit. I think it shows Biden as this uniter, which we've seen back when he was in dealing with the Ukraine, building bridges, if you will, and not that go it alone strategy. And for voters looking at this, they elected Joe Biden to be that guy, to be the one that worked across the aisle, that worked across borders to try and create these kinds of alliances. So they got exactly what they voted for. The more Democrats support Joe Biden now than they did Barack Obama at the same time in his presidency.
That's an interesting point.
So what that says to me is that Democrats aren't really looking for somebody else. Maybe we can have a better bench. And that's another conversation for another day.
Right.
But right now, the goal is to beat Donald Trump or any other Republican that's coming to that general election.
All right, Scott, it's interesting because, you had him hosting and having that presidential look today, right? And Biden wants more and more of that as you've got this infighting going on the other side. So the infighting that I'm referring to was on full display today. Chris Christie goes to Florida, where DeSantis, of course, is governor, to give us an idea of how he's going to be handling the debate and the attack lines. Let me just play some of this.
If he thinks he's going to get on the stage and defend Donald Trump on Wednesday night, then he should do Donald Trump a favor and do our party a favor. Come back to Tallahassee, endorse Donald Trump, and get the hell out of the race. His point of view on the January 6th riot, he said, well, I wasn't in Washington that day, so I don't know as much about it. Well, man, I wasn't in Washington either, okay? But I have a TV set, and I saw what was going on, and I got an opinion about it.
Okay, Scott, so yes, DeSantis is down 20 points in national polls since March. That's a ski slope. It's a downward ski slope. Do you think this debate could be the moment that completely ends it for DeSantis? Or conversely, do you think he can turn it all around in this moment?
Well, he certainly has the chance to do either, right? I mean, there's blood in the water. Everybody knows that. Obviously, Chris Christie's gunning for him. But at the same time, a lot of what voters have heard about Ron DeSantis have come from other people. They've come from Trump. They've come from Never Trump. They've come from the media. They've come from $20 million in attack ads that have been run against Ron DeSantis. This will be a chance for him, in his own words, to lay out who he is and why he is running, and to, obviously have a few moments of combat with some of these other Republicans. So, yeah, is there risk in this? Absolutely. But there's also opportunity to try to finally break through of all the noise that tends to surround his candidacy and really rise above that in his own voice. And that's what he's going to have to do. Right now, everybody on that stage wants to replace Ron DeSantis as the front runner of the non-Trump candidates. So he's going to be getting it from all sides.
Right, right. Well, it's interesting you use the word combat, right? It's appropriate. Basil, the candidates are also talking about they're going to attack Biden, right? That's one thing that'll be the easy go-to for all of them, right? When DeSantis has been taking a lot of incoming to go there. DeSantis today went after Biden's silence over the weekend on the Hawaii wildfires. Of course, now he's going out there, but he's picking on him for that. 50% of Democratic primary voters, right? We touched on this, but they want someone else to be the party's 2024 nominee, notwithstanding what you pointed out about how he's more popular now among Democrats than Obama was at the same point in that cycle. Are you worried that this debate could turn any independent voters or wary voters away from Biden? In part because Trump's not there. So they actually get to look at real alternatives.
I would be more concerned if the Republican primary electorate actually allowed any of their candidates to be that kind of candidate to talk about crossing the aisle in the way that Biden has done. That doesn't seem to happen. I talk about this all the time. Remember 2012? Chris Christie went and hugged Barack Obama, then President Obama, after Superstorm Sandy.
Yep.
And he spent the next several years finding a way to deny that. If that's the kind of candidate that he would be, or that those other candidates on the GOP side will be, there's no wiggle room for them to try to get some of those disaffected Democrats, if there are any, or independents to come to their side, because they're not making themselves into general election candidates. They're staying very focused on their primary electorate.
The primary electorate, which is who the audience is for this debate. All right, thank you both very much.